Hello everyone, and right now what we're going to be doing is taking a look at Motion Master for DAZ Studio. And Motion Master is a plugin created by Dreamlight that gives you the ability to create motion blur effects for DAZ Studio. And I do want to mention before I get started here that these videos are just going to be quick start guides. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, but they're not necessarily going to be a replacement for the PDF manual that comes with Motion Master. And what you're taking a look at here is a screenshot of the PDF manual. And within the manual, you're going to find a lot of detailed information about Motion Master, which I won't have time to cover in these brief videos. So these are just going to be some quick start videos to get you started and to give you some additional support if you need it. So with that said, I'm just going to switch back to DAZ Studio. And what we're going to be doing in this video is adding a motion trail to our character here. And actually, we're just going to be creating the composite images needed to produce that final render. And I'm going to show you how to set up to do that. Now, the first step is to create your scene and get it rendered. And right here, I have a render of my scene. Now, what I'm going to do is take this render, I'm going to bring it into my 2D photo editing application, and I'm going to add my motion blur effect. So after you create your rendered image, then you want to render your motion blur effect. And this is really easy to do. It's not difficult to do. And I'm going to start off just by showing you how you would first access your Motion Master panel. You would click on View here, you would go to Tabs, and then choose Motion Master. And then from here, you can dock Motion Master by clicking right on the title here and dragging it off to the side. Now that I have Motion Master docked, I'm ready to create my motion trail for the superhero that I have here. And this is just a typical superhero in flight scene. And we're going to create a motion trail coming from the sidewalk all the way up to the character here to give our still image a sense of motion. Now, the first thing we want to do is start at the top. Notice that these are grayed out. We can't even click here. So we got to start at the top with Set Motion End. And to do that, we just simply click here. From here, we're going to get some options to select some motion nodes. And at this point, you want to select every node that you're going to apply a motion blur to. In this case, I am going to be applying a motion blur to the character here. Part of the character is also the lamp, and then the boots are also part of my character. So be sure to go through and make sure you have everything that needs to be checked. Once you do that, you can hit Accept. And then now we're going to get another Options menu, which we can select Mask Nodes. And what this means is if there is an object that is going to be in front of our motion trail, that is going to be covering up part of our motion blur, we can select these objects to create a mask for our motion trail. And I'm going to talk about how you would composite something like that later on. In this example, I don't have anything here, so I'm going to leave this empty. And if you don't have anything that's going to be blocking your motion trail, you can just leave everything unchecked and hit Accept. Now I'm going to get this confirmation that my motion endpoint was set, and I can click OK here. Now we can move on and create our set motion start. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to position our character to the start point of the motion trail. And this will provide Motion Master with the information it needs in order to determine where to start the blur effect and where to end the blur effect. We already have the endpoint set. Now all we have to do is create the start point. And in order to do that, I'm going to switch to my left camera view. So this is my left viewport. And here I already have my character selected, and I'm just going to move my character down to the position where I want that motion trail to start, which would be right about there. And then I'm going to switch to now my front viewport, fine tune this a little bit here. Maybe you want that motion trail to start right about there. And then finally, I'm going to go back to camera 1, and we can even fine tune things a little more if we want to from here. So we're just going to be creating a simple linear motion trail. We're just going to be keeping things really basic for now. So I have my start point all set up, and now I can click Set Motion Start, click OK. And now we can preview. This is the end, View Motion End here. This is View Motion Start. Everything looks okay, so we can move on to adjusting some of the properties here. Now, if you don't like what you have going on, you can clear the motion and just simply start all over again. So right here we have some properties we can adjust. These are pretty self-explanatory. We have our quality setting here. In this case, I'm just going to leave it on standard. Blend sharpness is going to determine how sharp or blurry the motion trail is going to be. I do want my motion trail to be pretty blurry, so I'm going to leave mine around 10. And the only way to really get a good understanding of these properties here is to experiment and try rendering different settings. But again, this is just the sharpness here. Putting the sharpness up to 100% is just going to give us a sharper motion blur. Putting this down near the lower percentages is going to give us a blurrier effect. All right, and this is the blend fade. And this is going to determine how quickly that motion trail fades out. Leaving at 100%, we're going to have a motion trail that fades out pretty quickly. Down at 0%, we're going to have a fairly long motion trail that doesn't fade out too much. I'm going to just set mine to maybe about 25%. I want a pretty long motion trail here, which is kind of good for these comic book type of renders that you'll find. For a more realistic kind of render, though, you do want to put your blend fade up a little higher. But in my case, I'm going to leave it kind of low. And here we have the option to change our render engine. I don't recommend that you change from OpenGL at all unless it's absolutely necessary. If OpenGL is not giving you the results that you want, you might want to switch to 3Delight, but typically you'd want to stick with OpenGL. And then what we have here is the render format, PNG or JPEG, whatever you prefer. I prefer to use JPEG. One thing I want to mention about PNG, though, if some of you like working with transparencies, PNG files do export with transparencies, so it's up to you. But I like JPEG. And what I'm going to do is untack my window here just so we can take a look at some of these other settings down here. We have the output path, again, self-explanatory. You want to select the folder you want to save your final composite images in. We have the output format, again, matter of preference, PNG or JPEG. And we are ready now. All you have to do is render your motion. You click here. And what's going to happen is it's going to take a while and Motion Master will render your layers. Now in my case I've already done this, so I'm actually going to pause and bring up those images just to show you what I have rendered. Alright, so this is what I have now. This is the final render that I showed you earlier that I had created, and then what Motion Master has created for us is a mask here for our object in motion. And this is the mask for that character that we can use when we composite. We have the actual motion trail. So this is my motion trail. And then we have our motion trail mask. What we're going to do here is we're going to take all these images and composite them in our 2D photo editing application. And since I'm running out of time here on this video, I'm going to be covering that in the very next video. So in the next video, we're going to take this image and we're going to add that motion trail that we created with Motion Master.